Welcome back to another episode of Ops Owners. I'm your host, Cannon Spears. I'm joined today by Misty Gilmore. Really excited to have Misty here. Misty is an integrator at Impact Architects. Impact Architects is a business coaching firm which helps leadership teams get real traction through expertly run EOS meetings and disciplined follow-through. I've been just really loving the EOS language and frameworks and talking with a lot of great people in this community. So really excited to have Misty joining the conversation.
Thank you, Cannon. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, good to have you here. Misty, why don't you tell me a little bit about your background, how you got involved with Impact Architects? Would love to get into EOS. Just tell me about how you found integration as the role that you're at right now.
Sure. So I have been in the corporate world for over 20 years. I've always been in an operational type role or project management role. And one of the things that's always challenged me is not knowing exactly where the company was going. We never really had a good operating system. The communication was poor. We were kind of making up our own goals, hoping that they did align with the company goals. And then I was introduced to the book Traction probably a year or so ago. And then I tried to utilize that book in a corporate environment, which you really have to have the buy in of the leadership team, or an operating system just doesn't work. So I read that book and I was like, oh my gosh, this is what every company is missing is really just an operating format. And I just think EOS is great, but there's many of them out there that can work for large companies. Like EOS really subscribes to 1 to 250 employees is what they try to say. But to me, the practice of what you do in those EOS sessions could be done, at other levels if you have the leadership buy-in. There's so much about that. So when I read that book, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is gonna help," right? And one of my big things that I'm trying to help people with right now is how to run a good meeting, because meetings suck. I mean, nobody wants to go to a meeting because they don't think that they're gonna be productive. They'll think they'll be a waste of time because they don't know why they're there. And I think EOS really prescribes good L10 meetings. It tells you exactly the agenda, you know what to prepare for, and you're looking for outcomes and good performance when you're in those L10 meetings. So that is what kind of turned me to, okay, EOS is a good operating system after I decided to leave my last company, which was another corporate company.
Okay. Okay. So you mentioned project management and these kind of operator roles, and I assume you've read Rocket Fuel and know pretty well the difference between integrator versus visionary. And I take it that you really resonated with that integrator language. Same with EOS.
Yes, absolutely. So a visionary is a person that has thousands of ideas, basically. They're always saying, oh, I could go do this, oh, I could go do that. And they're chasing those ideas, but they're not usually good people to put them into practice. Like they're not going to make them happen on their own because they have the next new idea. So it's a yin yang kind of situation. You become a visionary and an integrator. Uh, well, the integrator is going to keep the visionary grounded and say, yes, you can do this. Your ideas are great. So let's put them on your long term issues list. Maybe we'll look at those later, see if they're practical. But the whole idea is to keep going for that 1 year goal that you're trying to do as a company. And if it doesn't align with that, then you want to keep track of it, but it may not be now. And I think visionaries want to be heard. They don't want you to just ignore them. So, yeah, as an integrator, it's my job to make those visions come to fruition by working with the leadership team and aligning the goals and making sure we're doing scorecard, that we're getting to those goals, and then bringing up any issues that we need to address as a team. So, yeah, visionaries are very important. I am not a visionary. I knew that by taking that test. There's a quiz that you can take. I just don't see all those things. I like to actually just make everything run. And so that's how I know I'm an operator.
Yeah. Have you yin and yang is a good descriptor for that relationship. It's you need both to run an organization properly and well. You need the energy from the visionary. I've said this before. The visionary is the fuel, and the integrator is the engine that the fuel needs. You can't have one without the other in order to make a vehicle or any kind of machinery work. You need both. Um, in my experience, there have been some contentious moments between the two because I think both parties speak different languages and come from a very different framework and background about how they want to achieve their goals and what makes them tick. Have
Yeah.
you had experiences with that, and how have you been able to navigate um, two people coming together for one bigger goal, but talking a different language? How have you navigated that?
So they have what they call the um, same page meetings with the visionary and the integrator, where you go talk openly about any open issues. So one of the things that you'll find is that people may want to go talk to the visionary if they don't like how the integrator is running things, and that's called a run around workaround. And so we don't want those to happen. So we just have to go talk openly and make sure we have each other's back, especially in front of other people, because if you're not aligned, you're gonna have the friction, but friction can also cause you with the rocket fuel like you're talking about, that can actually make it go better. But working it out and understanding each other, one of the things that, my visionary always says is, expectations and agreements, right? Because if you don't have those together, then you don't know how to work. I may have expectations, you may not agree with what I'm saying, so then actually whatever I wanna do is not gonna work out for you, right? You're not agreeing with what I'm saying. So we do talk that way a lot. He'll say, "Okay, here's my expectation." And I'm like, "Well, I don't think that's gonna work right now. Maybe we can work that out later." So it's really you gotta have candid conversations and be open with conflict. And actually conflict helps because if you keep everything inside, they say you don't wanna go have those side meetings with people and talk about the whole idea is that you have each other's back, because if there's not the trust, you can't show, um, good on the leadership.
Yeah, yeah, I think that trust is important. Again, I think for both parties, it does take an awareness that we might be butting heads, but we are trying to achieve the same goal, and that's what the focus should be on, rather than micro the micro moments where things are just hard. Communication is hard. Um, Tell me about Impact Architects. Tell me about your role there, how you are integrating well and helping the business scale. Um, uh, why don't you also go more into detail about the services you offer, and like what you do, then how you do it well? I'd love to hear about.
Okay. So I like to say that I will help you. I want to make meetings matter and get to a 10 in your meetings. And because that's where a lot of it starts with companies. You have to have good meetings, which means you have to have your accountability in there, whether it's your to dos or your issues and your goals as a team, you have to align. And that was one of the things I think the firm was missing is they didn't have an integrator. So they're all visionaries at this firm. They're all wanting to go do their own things. And then how do we work together as a team to help each other? We have an impact leadership center where a lot of them run their meetings, and we try to open it up for other entrepreneurs. And I lead a manager that's there, so we're trying to help bring the coaches together, get a good networking group of like-minded people, people that want to help each other. And each of the coaches have their specialty areas. One of our coaches, Jim, he really helps very new companies, like 0 to 10. He has his own operating system, First OS, that helps them just get started because maybe they're not ready for a larger operating system. So we all have specialties. We just had a new coach join that is great at product management. So we try to see what is the right fit because one size doesn't fit all. And I'm supposed to be helping if there's new people looking for a coach. I kind of vet them to see which coach has the most capacity and is specialized in those areas. So as the integrator in this firm, that's what I really work on. And currently we're gonna be doing a book send out to potential clients just to try to give them something because you wanna give and help before you that's really part of our EOS way. So we're gonna be sending out books like, From Good to Great, by Jim Collins. Death by Meetings is gonna be the book I send because, there's so many things about bad meetings, and so they're not bad, they only run poorly, and so if you can make them run better, then that's gonna be helpful. So we're gonna be doing some of those initiatives as a firm, and then if there is some leads, we use 90, which is a great software that goes along with EOS or any operating system. It's very flexible and it keeps track of everything in one place. So we really run on, we kind of say impact architects, we run on 90 because that is how we actually operate inside these different systems. So a tool is just a tool, but when you find a good one that works with what you're doing, that makes it all work a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Tell me about how, give me a broad overview of what a good meeting looks like. And then I would love to get a little bit tactical about some takeaways about how listeners can implement immediately to help meetings go smoother and are more clarified and have achieve achieve the purpose for them. And so maybe at all levels of the organization, whether that's top level leadership team and then mid level as well. Um, Love to talk about meetings.
Ah, you're talking my language. So the first thing I think a company has to do is look at their accountability chart. We call that or chart on steroids because if you don't have the right people and the right seats, then you won't accomplish what you need to accomplish. And so we always tell companies to start with that even before you get to meetings. Like, have you looked at who you have, who's who in your Zoom and what they do, kind of thing? Because if that is not clear to people in the company, first of all, they don't know who to go to when they have an issue and who owns that area. I don't know if you've ever had this situation, but I've been in companies and I'm like, which do I go to? So I go into four people, waste their time and mine because I don't know who actually owns an area. So we always say to try to start with your accountability chart. And that's just start with what are the roles you need in your company? And it's not the who, but it's what are the roles and what do they own? That's kind of a core even before you get to having a meeting. So,
Okay.
good thing, does that make sense?
Yes, starting with making sure you're even meeting with the right person.
Yeah, you gotta have the right people in the right seats. So, assuming that we have that, the L10 meetings should be every day at the same time and start on time and end on time. They say you should always start 5 minutes early, and that's really on time. And so we try to get people there. The only reason to miss those meetings is if you're on vacation or you're dead, which I felt like that was really, really prescriptive. But that's just trying to say how important those meetings are because you need all the right leaders there. So what makes up the good meeting is you have a segue where you talk to everybody there, which is one reason I like these meetings is they include everyone. A lot of times I'd be not, several people didn't get to talk, but you start out with what is your preferred personal best for the week and your professional. So it kind of sets the tone to get to know people and the inside your company because maybe you didn't know they had two kids or a dog and they had fun with them. It kind of breaks those walls that we sometimes don't see. And then you go to looking at reporting in the meeting. So you look at your metrics. Are your metrics on track? Or if they're not, then you might drop it down to an issue. It's just a 5 minute thing. Then you look at your rocks, which are your goals, and say, are they on track? And if they're off track and you need help, then you make an issue out of that. So then you move on to your headlines. Like, what are the headlines that you want to tell people? And all that is communication around: is there a new person? Did you just land a new sales contract? Just kind of sharing things. Yes, yeah, it's about communication, and sometimes those go down to cascading messages to everybody else in the company because maybe they need to know this, right? It might energize them as part of we're moving forward as a company. Then you go to your to-dos. To-dos are things that you said either during the meeting or during the week that gives you 7 days typically to get them done. Usually wanna get them done in 7 to 14, and if you don't, then maybe that becomes an issue because you can't get it done for a certain reason. But the main part of your meeting is your issues, because you want to solve those things to move forward, and sometimes it's like you need to talk about someone in your company that maybe isn't doing so well, so you wanna get other people's input. Maybe there's a different position for them or maybe you have a process that's not working, a sales process, and so you wanna get feedback on from the other teams about what's not working. And the person that owns the issue that brought it in are the ones that are gonna try to figure out if it's actually solved. And when you have it, there's 3 different things you do as part of the issue. You talk about what the actual you identify what the actual root cause is, because sometimes we'll say, "Well, this person's not doing well." Well, why aren't they doing well? And then people can ask you questions and say, "Is that really that they're not doing well?" Or maybe they need training in an area. So then you go into discussion after you actually identify what the real thing is. You give everybody a chance to say something because maybe they've seen something or have an idea, and then you get to the solve of what you think will actually solve it in the meeting. So the 3 pieces, which I think a lot of times people just discuss and discuss, and you don't get to a solve.
Before you keep going, in my experience, a lot of those the talking through issues, has usually resolved in solving by setting another meeting. Is that appropriate, or is that like, should we try to have like in those um, level 10 meetings, like should we like do our best to actually solve that thing, or is scheduling a follow-up meeting appropriate?
Good question. Sometimes it is appropriate. If the goal is to solve them in the meetings, but say that the issue is really between me and 2 other people, then it might be better to take that offline in a different meeting instead of taking up your 6 people in the room, right? You don't need all the input. It's really between operations and sales. So maybe we heard everything from everybody else and we can't totally solve it because we need to go figure out what those nuances are. But then we should bring it back to the leadership meeting and tell them how we solved it. It could be in those, the cascading message or something just to say, "Yes, this is how we solved it." But, yeah, it's okay to have one-off meetings. The goal is to get most of the issues solved, though, in the leadership meeting.
Okay, okay, that's good. Okay, so yes, the issues takes up the bulk of the meeting. What happens after those issues are discussed?
Okay, so after you're done with your issues part, then you're going into your conclude part, and then you're just gonna recap those to-dos that you talked about because you wanna get agreement for the to-dos. Sometimes we get people to do and they're like, "I didn't say I would do that. You just put my name on it." So at the end, you're gonna say, "Okay, so Cannon, you said you would do this. Are you still okay with it?" Yes or no, right? And so that come up. And so you recap the to-dos, you can recap your headlines to say, here's the things we want to cascade messages to your teams. And then you're going to rate your meeting. And this is why we want to get meetings to a 10. It's not about perfection. It's really about, did the team perform well together? Do we feel like we accomplished what we came in to accomplish? And, and then everybody rates the meeting. So 10 is the best if you get below an 8. So we're going to ask you, why wasn't the meeting, what was wrong with the meeting for you? And hopefully it's something to do with how the team was operating. I've seen people come and say, well, I just didn't feel good this morning, so I wasn't at my best. Well, did the team perform? It's really about how do you guys did as a leadership team because we can't help that you didn't either get out of bed in time or something like that. It is interesting to hear that because the reason you want to know why is because maybe you need to fix something in the meeting. It's about learning
Yeah,
so you can.
yeah. The constant feedback is important for the whole the whole team to know how well are we doing, and can we do better next time. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
because you're never going to be perfect. All you can do is continue to get better.
yeah. In your experience, what when you're coaching businesses and business leaders to implement these level 10 meetings, what has been what has been the most difficult in your experience and knowledge for teams to accept and adapt to with regard to these lessons and framework that you're teaching?
I would say the issues part of it. But sometimes I don't know if it's an issue or a to do. And um, usually, when you solve an issue, you're going to create a to do out of that because there's probably an action that somebody has to take. That's one thing I like about 90 is you can change where it's at very easily as part of the software. So if it was an issue, I can just create a to do and it's going to link it to that issue so we know why we're doing it and there's context to it. But I would say the issues part because people get lost in the discussion and they don't know how to get to the solve. and everybody wants. There's a lot of politicking in it. Is what we call. They want you to understand what they're saying, and they're probably right. But it's really about what is we're getting to the best solution. I think it's definitely part of it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Again, in my experience, that would also be correct. That understanding the difference between how are we going to talk about this? How are we going to solve this? Is this just going to lead to more meetings? And like, is this really solved? And yeah, what constitutes a to do? How is that different from the headline? Like this, the language matters, and just kind of following that structure also matters. And in my experience, that has been once implemented properly, has made a big difference in the structure. And there's a lot of clarity around what is this meeting even supposed to be about? What are we trying to achieve here? And it's helped. That's helped the teams that I've been a part of. So. Um, what is like what's next for impact architects? What are you looking forward to? Like what are the next initiatives that y'all are looking at taking?
Well, we're looking to bring on more coaches that specialize in different areas so that we can meet people where they're at. Some of our coaches are looking at the exit planning part of it because that seems to be where companies also want to know how do they get to that next level? When are they ready to exit the company? Because they may not, they love starting it up and getting it going, but at some point we want to change where we're at in our life. And so we've got some of people are looking to get their CEPA, and then we're also looking for people that do scaling up. Like we started looking for someone that does scaling up because when you get to a certain point in EOS, they say you probably need to go to the next operating system after that. So we're just looking to be very well rounded to meet a business where they are at. Not everything is prescription. It is a framework. So it's supposed to help a company and meet them where their needs are. So that's what we're trying to do at Impact Architects is grow our firm to meet people where they're at. We do a trusted partners network, trying to help other companies, and they help us. And so we're continuing to grow that as well.
Good, good. Um, where listeners go find more about you and Impact Architects and get connected to your community?
They can go to impactarchitects.com. We're also on LinkedIn, Impact Architects. I'm also on LinkedIn, Misty Gilmore. You'll see me on that website. And we're just going to continue to publish more articles. I've been publishing a lot of things around meetings because I feel like those are one of the most important things is learning how to run a good meeting.
Yeah, and are immediately applicable. There's lots of little tactics that can help make meetings run better and better and more smoothly and with more clarity. So I think that's a good place to set your flag.
Yeah, great.
Yeah,
I
good.
appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you being here, Misty, and giving me some of your background and just really what you're passionate about in helping teams run better meetings. That's again, it's important. I've seen the impact of what bad meetings look like and what good meetings look like. So love that for y'all, and excited to see where Impact Architects goes from here. So
Thank
appreciate
you.
you
I
being here.
appreciate you letting me tell my story.
Absolutely. And for the listeners, thank you for joining. We'll tune in next time and we'll have another good episode. So appreciate y'all. Take care.